Next Door Neighbor by Peter Filler. Chapter 1 Pete's Close Encounter. It was the summer of 1999, and the people living in the Hudson Valley had been reporting a surge of UFO sightings. Pete Filler didn't know anything about that until he found out about it the hard way one night on a hike through the woods. It was nighttime on July 21st, and Pete told his father, "Hey, Dad, I'm going out on a hike." Wally raised an eyebrow. "On a hike?" "Yeah, on a hike." "Where to?" "Bear Mountain." "Bear Mountain?" Wally echoed. "Yeah." "Really?" "Yeah, really." "In the dark?" "Yeah." "Really?" "Yeah, really." Wally shook his head, then gave Pete a hug. "Okay, be careful out there in the dark. I love you." "Will do, Dad. I love you too." Pete took out his flip phone and dialed his next door neighbor, Eric. Ring, ring. Eric picked up. "Hello?" "Hi, Eric. It's Pete." "Hey, Pete. What's up?" "Want to go on a hike?" "On a hike?" Eric repeated. "Yeah, on a hike." "In the dark?" "Yeah, in the dark." Eric laughed. "Nah, I'll pass. Have fun." He hung up. Still determined, Pete got in his silver Honda Prelude and headed for Bear Mountain. "Your loss," Pete muttered under his breath as he drove into the dark night towards Bear Mountain. When he arrived at the parking lot, he looked up at the shadowy peaks and paused. Then, without hesitation, he set off alone into the darkness, unaware that something might be watching him. Fearless, Pete began his hike up the mountain. Step by step, Pete climbed the mountain, unknowingly drawing closer to his destiny. Then he stopped. "Ah, the lookout. Yes, I made it," he exclaimed, gazing out at the distant glow of the New York City skyline shimmering on the horizon. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his flip phone. Ring, ring. Eric picked up. "Hey, Pete. How's it going?" "I'm at the top of Bear Mountain right now," Pete said. "The view is amazing. I can see the Twin Towers, the Chrysler Building, and the Empire State Building. You should be here." "I promise I'll go with you next time," Eric replied. There was a short pause before Eric continued, his tone shifting. "Since I got you on the phone, I've been meaning to talk to someone about some health stuff. Would you be willing to listen? Maybe give me some advice?" Pete hesitated for a moment, then nodded to himself. "Sure, Eric. What's going on?" "Well, it all started at basketball practice," Eric said. "John Rockland tripped me, and I twisted my ankle." Eric kept talking, and Pete listened carefully, offering advice where he could. Standing at the edge of the world, grounded by friendship. Suddenly, Pete felt a strange sensation, like someone nearby was listening. He glanced around, but saw no one. Still, a chill crept down his spine. "Hi, Eric," Pete said quietly into the phone. "I think someone's out here. I'm not alone." Eric's voice came through uncertain. "That's weird, Pete. Who else could possibly be out there?" "I don't know," Pete said, scanning the darkness. "But I'm getting out of here." He hung up and quickly started down the mountain, heart racing, thoughts swirling. What in the world was that? As Pete hiked, he began to feel like someone was following him. Pete was suspicious, wondering if he was being followed. Finally, Pete reached the parking lot and let out a deep sigh of relief. He jumped into his car, started the engine, and sped off, trying to shake off the strange sense of disbelief that clung to him like a fog. By the time Pete got home, his parents were already in bed. With nobody around to share his experience with, Pete was left to ponder the mysterious event alone. 4 months later, Pete Filler was back home from college on Thanksgiving break. It was Saturday night, and Pete had just finished working a 4-hour shift delivering Chinese food at Emperor Express. Pete stopped to say his goodbye to his boss. "Goodbye, Joe. See you tomorrow. Thanks for the food, my favorite, mugugai pan with white rice." "You're welcome, Peter Pan. Enjoy," Joe replied with a grin. "Bye, Pizza Pan," Linda's wife Jo called from the kitchen. Like every other night, Pete jumped into his Honda Prelude, but tonight, this was one ride he wouldn't soon forget. Pete sped down Chestnut Ridge Road, heading home, when the light at Devil's Mountain Trail suddenly turned red. He slammed on the brakes, just in time, and came to a stop. As he waited for the light to turn green, Pete glanced to his right. There it was, Devil's Mountain Pass, a narrow, winding back road with a steep incline that led to Saddle River Road. It was a shortcut, but a dangerous one, especially at night. Pete hesitated for a moment, then instead of waiting for the light, he turned right. Pete drove up the winding road, driving closer to his destiny. As he neared the top of the hill, a sudden flash of light caught his eye. Something was moving just ahead on the right side of the road, heading in the same direction as him. What could that be? Pete wondered. A mountain biker out here at night? The figure moved slowly, just within the edge of his headlights. Curious, Pete eased off the gas and slowed for a closer look. At first it looked like a person on the side of the road, but as he pulled up beside it, Pete's stomach tightened. This wasn't a person. It was something he had never seen before. Pete slowed to a crawl, leaning forward to get a better look. Then, its eyes opened. 2 sky-blue, oval-shaped eyes glowed in the dark, eerily calm and unblinking. Pete froze, locking eyes with the strange figure. Then, slowly, the eyes closed. Without warning, the figure turned and sprinted towards an old, abandoned stone house at the edge of the woods. No, 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 no! What was that? What was that? Pete whispered to himself. Heart pounding, suddenly he felt a sting on his right forearm. He felt a bump there and reached for the dome light. There was a bump. Dark, swollen, a blood blister. Ah! Pete cried out from fear. How did that get there? Pete questioned as he slammed the gas and sped down the steep incline towards Saddle River Road. As he sped towards home, his mind raced. Could this be connected to what happened on Bear Mountain? Pete burst through the front door and found his father in the living room. Dad! Dad! You're not going to believe what just happened to me. Huh? Pete? What is it? Wally asked, half asleep on the sofa, watching a New York Knicks basketball game. Dad, listen to me, Pete said, nearly out of breath. I just had an encounter with a space alien. I'm serious. I'm scared. Please. Just listen. Wally sat up and shook his head. Son, you imagined it. There's no such thing as space aliens. Whatever you think you saw was in your imagination. You've had a long day. I don't want to hear any more about it. I'm going to bed. See you in the morning. Pete was shocked but not surprised by Wally's reaction, who had always been a big denier of anything he couldn't see with his own 2 eyes. Eat your dinner, then get some rest, Tiger. I will, Pete muttered, still shaken. Lying there in the dark, Pete couldn't sleep. He was tossing and turning, replaying everything in his mind, over and over. The glowing blue eyes, the way the creature had stared at him. Hal bolted towards the old stone house, vanishing behind a tree, and the blood blister on his arm just appeared out of nowhere. Pete finally calmed down and began to doze off just before the dawn.